It's 7:03. I'll call to order this special meeting of the Waterbury Selectboard on Tuesday, December 10th, 2024. I'll acknowledge that the Vermont Emergency Management has a flood warning out for Thursday morning, so we may want to amend the agenda to take that into account. First item on the agenda is to approve the agenda. Do I have a motion?
I would move to approve the agenda with the addition of flood discussion. I'm trying to find a good place for it.
And Kane?
Probably with the Natural Disaster Response Coordinator.
Yeah.
So add that to the discussion of the Natural Disaster Response Coordinator.
Okay.
That's a long motion, Alyssa, I'm sorry.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right. The agenda is approved as amended. Next item is the consent agenda. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right. Consent agenda is approved as presented, including the minutes of the last meeting on December 2nd. Next is the public session. Anyone wishing to address anything not on the warned agenda can come step forward, and we ask that you keep your comments to 3 minutes and be glad to add anything requiring further action to an ensuing agenda. Yeah, Tom, come forward.
Tom Glore, Waterbury, long-time listener, first-time caller. Haven't been here in a while, but I do listen to all the select board things. I was just going to make a comment, and they're not related, but I think they're important to think in terms of your 5-year plan or 3-year plan, which is Thursday's Harwood Union budget discussion at Crosset Brook. I believe it's from 6 o'clock to 7:30, and I don't know from a select board perspective if there's a liaison to the school board or to me it's an important part where I believe the state's going to be at an inflection point for education, knowing what Harwood has in mind, not just on your annual budget, but when you look at infrastructure and their type of capital costs that are coming due. A few years ago they spent $1 million on a kitchen. It was something that really bothered me at the time. I knew it was required, but I don't know where $1 million goes nowadays. So I would just say that if we don't have a liaison with the school board, I know it's a separate board, but it would probably be good to have them in on occasion as kind of touch points with the towns that are in the district to see where there may be some big bills coming. So that's all I got.
Okay. Thanks, Tom. Anyone else? Yes, Mike.
Just kind of in response to that, we do have the superintendent in periodically to discuss things, so that's kind of, we look at that as kind of our touch base, you know, maybe we don't have it as frequently as we may should, but at least it happens multiple times a year.
Yeah, Chris.
Add to Tom there. So I've been in touch with one of the school board members. I've been trying to get a couple of our representatives to come sit in front of the select board to give them some idea of where we might be headed. I've picked the brain a little bit, and it seems as though that the Scott administration plans on somehow buying down the education tax this year. It looks like Harwood, number one, school board member tried to get Harwood school board, other school board members to agree to a 0% increase this year. Only 2 others would do that. So that failed. From what I understand, we're going to be looking at least 3%. I wouldn't hold my breath on such a low number, but I think it's going to be higher than that. And I tried to get somebody to come in front of us here at the select board to try to give us some kind of clue of where we might be headed in this process. Give us a heads up, to give us some time to work with it if we had to. Tom's done a great job on this budget. And I'm worried about what the future's going to bring here in this process. Because as far as I'm concerned, and I don't want to get long-winded here, but the state legislative body's got so much up against them right now. They're back into a corner. They don't have any solutions. So they're robbing Peter to pay Paul right now until some miracle comes out of the woodwork. Nobody's even talking about the disrepair of the school systems that are going to cost us upwards between $6 and $8 billion to fix in short order here. Nobody's brought that into the table. Apparently that meeting over across the brook, I wasn't here for it. I'm beside myself that I missed it with the legislators. There was somebody from Moretown that came unglued, I guess, about the cost of education, about the cost of property taxes in the state. And nobody, to my knowledge, brought up the underlining issues that our legislative body is up against and asked them, how are you going to solve these problems? I don't think they have an answer, so I'll leave it at that.
Okay. Thanks. Yeah, we have the good fortune that our zoning administrator is on the school board, so every time I go to see Tom, I get buttonholed and getting in a little input, but I wouldn't dispute anything that's been said so far about potential increases is what I'm hearing, but it's a good idea, and we'll see if we can get more direct input. Let's see what's going on. Melissa.
Well, Lisa just walked in, and I do feel like I want to shamelessly plug under public announcements that we have a newspaper that serves our community online, which is the Waterbury Roundabout, and they have a funding drive through the end of the year where donations are matched. So it's not something we're doing as a town, but I will certainly say as an individual, I'm a sustaining donor and really appreciate Lisa coming to all of our meetings and listening to us and sharing information with the public. So if that's a public service you value, always opportunity to contribute. But if you become a monthly donor now, they like 12 exit for the entire year. So you can get a lot of bang with the same buck. So my personal shameless plug to support the Roundabout if you're interested.
Thank you.
Great.
Could I, one bit of information on what Chris just said? The meeting that he was speaking about that was at Harwood a week or so ago, it was recorded, and we have a link to it on our website. So there's a story about it and a link that if you could, Mad River TV recorded it so you could watch the meeting. There's also a meeting this Thursday at Cross the Brook at 6 o'clock with the school board talking about this year's budget. It's their first public, they're looking to do a presentation to the public and ask for public comment and opinions, and that's at 6 o'clock in the cafeteria at Cross the Brook this week on Thursday.
Thank you.
Yeah. I can email you. I'll send you the links. Happy.
Any other public comments? All right, thank you. We'll move on. Budget overview. Questions from last week's meeting, and then we'll move on from there to get a presentation from the rec department.
If you want to fire questions, or you want me to use the minutes from last week?
I think if you can just pull from the minutes questions that were recorded, that will.
Sure. So there was a question about the pilot payment, which came in lower this year. Mm-hmm. My understanding of the pilot payment is it's funded by the local option tax, the part the state keeps. And
Yep.
it's based on insurance values of properties. And they use insurance values because people like me throughout the years have said, well, there's state property in our town. Mm-hmm. Let's just pump the grand list value for it because they don't pay taxes and we'll get a bigger share of the pilot. I looked at a 10-year history, and it grows pretty steadily because the funding mechanism, the local option taxes, but there have been a couple of blips on the radar, and this was one, so I don't have any additional information aside from I'm shocked it didn't come in where it did.
Is it notably below past years?
It was 2024 is below 2023. But several towns in the past year have enacted new local option taxes. Stowe was one.
Yeah, you would think that would increase the pot.
So I didn't plan an increase in 2025, but I think we'll probably get one. I feel like when I look at the history, there's steady 3 or 4% growth, and there's these oddball years where it goes down to 10%, and then you make up for it. But to my knowledge, nothing changed in the state government in terms of valuing their buildings less for insurance purposes. And you think with the armory coming online, an additional number I got was a couple $1 million in renovations there, that would have a higher insurance value too.
Right.
So I'm hoping it's just an aberration there.
But is it based on the overall sales tax or the 1% tax across the board?
It's all the summation of the local option taxes. The part the state keeps, they keep 30%, some of that goes towards their administrative overhead, and the rest funds the pilot program.
Yeah.
The other piece just pertains to, there's nothing formal, but VLCT over the years has had conversations about changing the pilot formula so that it's a pot of money given to every town, not disproportionately weighted to the towns with state property, but from my perspective, that's a lot of money. If we didn't have state property in Waterbury, we'd have a grand list. So we should have a pilot. I understand VT's position in representing all towns, but not something I would ever support.
Good.
Just go through the minutes right here. The 3% cost of living for employees is right around the rate of inflation. It was 4% last year. When inflation is down, you try to keep pace as best you can.
Tom, question, if it's okay. Is there discretion for additional raises beyond that? Like, clearly you've built that 3% in. I'm just curious to what extent that represents the maximum potential versus,
So there's always, anyone can ask for a raise at any time.
Yeah.
There's a little extra money built into recreation for a staff raise there. There's a little extra money built into the library. It's not for a raise, an hourly rate increase above standard. We have one employee that's working, I believe, 37 and a half hours, being paid for 37 and a half. But they're really working for it, so it's essentially to pay them.
It's a full-time?
They're still benefit eligible at 37 and a half, but I feel like we've got an obligation there for the working people to pay them. I just had this conversation with the library board, and what I say is, anyone can always come and ask for a raise. It's a whole lot easier if it's budgeted. And if a department had asked for a raise, I'm happy to have the conversation, but I might ask them to pay for it in the current year and the future year in some way. So again, it's just a lot easier if it's budgeted.
Is there a process for that in terms of when we're creating the budget? Like, is that known to department heads as they're submitting to you?
I think so. I think it's
Okay.
pretty well known. I think that's been history for a long time. So we try to have those conversations.
Thank you.
Moving on, a couple more questions that were asked. The building security system, of which there's $20,000 budget for the local option tax. So staff, I think the impetus behind this was that summer of 2023, there was a police chase where there was someone with warrants, and they were up on Blush Hill, and they went down through here, and that
Jumped the highway.
staff. And so there's an internal committee that was created to discuss security here, and so there's some desire for a card access system. There's some desire for additional security cameras, which are about $1,000 a piece. I shouldn't say additional, I should say security cameras. And there's desire for a push-button panic alarm system. All those things are very expensive. Even going lower end options, they're very expensive. So I've proposed using $20,000 for the building security for the card access system to start, because I think in addition to a staff benefit, there's a public benefit, because the system now for utilizing the steel room is we give you a key. When I say card access system, I mean it's a combination card and punch code system. So we could rent the steel room on the weekends and we give you a punch code, and it simply expires Sunday night whenever we set in the system. So there's a way to open the room to additional public access. It also makes it easier. I think for every board that uses the room after hours, you don't need to worry about the key. The building's just going to be locked. And we can give punch codes and card access as needed. So I think that makes sense. I think there's some public benefit to the boards in addition to the staff. I think we can start there and then start to figure out the other options. Part of me also, I didn't want to pay for it all, or propose paying for it all, because I struggle a little bit to reconcile it because it's a public building. And fundamentally, people come in here to sometimes pay their bills, which is not the most pleasant experience for anyone. But I don't feel like it's inherently unsafe for the staff to take tax payments. Sometimes people are unhappy about it and express that, and I can always come out, but I don't feel like we're a high target per se for that reason. So I think starting with card access has some board and public benefit in addition to the staff.
And does the committee that was formed, they support this initiative?
I think they want it all. But I think to get it all, we're more in the $35,000, $40,000 range. I think perhaps it can only be achieved over time. I'm just not proposing to do it in 1 year.
Right. Mike?
I agree with Tom. I think this is a public building. I don't think it should be locked, at all times. There are times, night meetings and stuff like that, where it may be appropriate. But otherwise, during business hours, we don't want to create this as an armed fortress. I think, any staff member who has concerns, I think there are ways to deal with that. I think, that's just good customer service. As you said, people, have problems with their taxes. That's usually not the most friendly interaction in the world, but that's part of people's jobs to deal with people like that.
Ian?
I'll just make a comment that working in a public school would give card access, and it is very nice, both in terms of just access to the building, but also from a safety standpoint. It's a very nice thing. So from that perspective, I think this makes a lot of sense.
And any modern system is pretty highly programmable, so you can set the doors to lock whatever time you want, and you can, if you want to rent the building, and you want to give someone access, you just give them a code and set it in the computer, and then it goes away when you set it to expire.
Good. Mike?
Have you done research on cost? Because I know those systems can be pretty cost prohibitive, but, I'm all for the expenditures, but just intuitively, $20,000 seems cheap.
So I've met with a few vendors. They've all got different proposals, and mostly it's driven by the doors, because you've got to put the hardware on the door itself.
Exactly.
And to my surprise, what drives the price is also the cards. I assume that the little RFID cards were really cheap. You use them all the time now. You put it in your ski pants and just leave it there for years. They're not cheap, and so if you get punch codes instead of cards, you pretty substantially move the cost. And there's an ongoing subscription fee, of course.
Right.
Which stays with you. That's not huge, but it's not free.
Security's not free.
Quick question.
Yeah, Chris?
If you set the timer for such and such to start and then to finish, let's say the meeting or the people get done early, half hour, 45 minutes early, they walk out the door, this room's still accessible from that time afterwards. Is that something that you really want, or is there a way of punching last person leaves, punches a button, shuts the time off prematurely, or?
Yeah, at that level, I've got to speak with the consultants, but if this room is accessible, it's just this room and the bathrooms.
Yes.
Those doors would be impacted, that door would be impacted, so. I think part of it is the security firm is going to work with us in the protocol.
Right.
Sure we get it. If you think about it, we've got a fair number of doors in the building overall, so they've all got to be impacted in some way. It may be that to save money, the basement door maybe just isn't part of it. It's just a locking door, and the public works employees that go in there to empty the garbage just use their key, rather than spend $1,000 in that door.
Right.
And I'm sure, even if we do it, the first week or two, there's going to be a few annoyed people, and I'll probably get locked out, and we'll have to make some tweaks here and there, and that'll just be part of it. But in talking to the consultants, they do this all the time, and much more
Bless you.
secure and complex places than this, so I'm not worried about finding a solution that works.
All right. Any other questions from the minutes?
And then a couple more that came out. So the gravel piece, there's a question about the gravel in the truck. So the sketch plan for the local option tax, when I say sketch plan, I want to make clear there's no real pride of authorship. I know this is the first conversation. $150,000 next year, that's for gravel and hauling. So we wouldn't necessarily do the hauling for that. We still do an awful lot of hauling. And the proposal for the truck, which was intertwined, would be to buy a tandem 15-yard dump truck, which is the biggest we have. Because no matter what, we essentially have almost one full-time person to haul. That's essentially what he does. And then there's an awful lot of hauling in the interim. And part of it is weather dependent, and part of it is schedule dependent. We had a few days this summer where staff were just on vacation, and we're down to a few people. And if there's one or two people, you can't do a whole lot per se on the road. But if you need a haul material, you can do that.
Just need one driver.
Just need a driver. And so I think having the tandem dump makes economic sense over the long term. They are a lot of money. The 6 or 9 yard dump trucks aren't a whole lot less, to be honest. We're looking at a difference of $60,000. That's more than that, sorry. I don't want to give you the quote, but we're not looking at a dramatic difference for the smaller trucks. They've all done an awful lot. But having the tandem dump, I think, makes economic sense. There's no, we have the staff to drive it. So essentially, the gravel plan in the local option taxes buy an awful lot of material every other year. Because I want to make sure that the crew, whether it's the crew or contractors, have the appropriate time to do the background work before they put the gravel down. So that's brush trimming, that's ditching, that's all the related work that goes with it. So the plan would be that money gets the gravel to the ice center. And then from there, we essentially have a longer period of time to use it. We talked about contracting out all that, but the minute you talk to construction companies about hauling, laying down gravel, and doing it all, you don't get a whole lot of feet of road done for $150,000. And that's if the gravel is here. Never mind if you've got to truck it in. So we thought giving the crew the material would be a great first step. And if that is not the best solution, we still have the material, it's so easy, so we can pivot from there. But the quotes for contractors were just awful high. So that's that's the plan. We can always pivot if it doesn't work in a year or 2 or 3 and then contract it out and go from there.
Okay.
Couple other things, you know.
By the way, I did run into our friend Keith at Central Vermont Planning and mentioned the gravel rail initiative, and he said he was going to follow up with his transportation guy. I said, in all likelihood, we'll just run into the railroads, but he seemed to think it was something worth pursuing.
Okay. Just by way of background, the cemetery commissioners did endorse the budget at their last meeting, and the library commissioners just did it an hour ago. There was a question about, Kane had a question about part-time employees, and is that reliable?
For the cemetery.
Yeah, I think it is. So I've got to move money around in 2024. We book all the part-time employees in the summer help and rec, and then they get moved around. Those expenses get moved depending on their actual work. We hired a guy named Stan Morris, who I believe has worked for the town in the past, but Stan really led the summer crew and did a great job, I thought. And we had good younger workers under him, but I think having Stan being a little older than an authority figure helped a lot. You know, not to disparage the younger folks, but when I was 18, I needed a lot more direction than I need now. I need a lot now.
That's why we're here.
So I think it worked really well, and they all seem primed to come back. If we don't get quite all of them, I still think we're in good shape. The cemetery budget in 2024, we budgeted a lot for contractors, and a little bit for employees, because we got hammered in 2023 contracting out mowing. So we did all our own mowing this year and saved a boatload of money, and we're well within the overall budget. It was just spent in one line and not the other. So in 2024, those expenses on a net basis are reduced, more consistent with our experience this year, but I do think we can repeat it. So 2025, the expenses are reduced, more consistent with their experience this year, but I do think we can hold true to that because everyone seems interested in coming back. And stands the heart of it. So I think did a lot for us, and I think the work was really good. And then the Conservation Commission. So the day, I believe Monday the 2nd, the chair of the commission sent a funding request for an amount of, I believe, in the range of $32,000. I haven't had a chance to talk with her about that yet. I'm also going to talk to Martha Stackis, chair of the Planning Commission, about that, because my understanding of the org structure is really the Conservation Commission is essentially subordinate to the Planning Commission. But from my perspective, if the work the Conservation Commission wants done is something that's supported by you folks, I'm not sure I recommend doing it in 2025 unless it's needed to inform the town plan.
Right.
If it's needed for the town plan, then I think it's a different conversation. But what I said to Amy in an email response was, I thought I was pretty conservative in the local option tax, and so there's potentially room to pivot there, and it's also early December, and so it's all possible. I also asked her if she received the appropriation, would they spend all the money in the calendar year, thinking maybe there's a way to do bits and pieces, and the answer was they would. So I think that I've just got to get to the bottom of that.
When she was talking to us, she mentioned that she was basing that $30,000 on top-of-the-line consultancy by Arrowwood, which isn't necessarily the contractor that you would go with. And she admitted that, and she also said that there could be some grant money available that would defray that. Did you have your hand up, Melissa? No?
I also want to look at, there's a cabinet back there with a lot of history from the Conservation Commission, and essentially what they're asking for is a natural resource inventory.
Yeah.
And I think perhaps some of that's been done in the past, maybe not as comprehensive as they want, but there may be a way to narrow the scope a little bit. Just haven't gotten that far yet.
Okay.
And those were the main questions from the minutes. Happy to.
Yeah, Mike?
I agree with you, Tom. A lot of that work has been done already. And I would agree, some of this research, if it's part and parcel needed for the town plan, I might be more for it, you know. Otherwise, just, you know, it's a kind of a nice thing, but it's a pretty big ticket item. And I have a little bit of concern as to, you know, where that falls, you know, right now. You know, as you said, I think that the conversation needs to come through the planning commission, is to see what they say, you know, the long-term plan, what they want to do with the town plan. I think that's where that conversation needs to take place.
Okay, any other questions for Tom on this? Right, Chris?
Yeah, if we can jump back to the $95,000 increase, which basically pertains to insurance increases.
So
My question is, what percentage increase does that represent?
So there's a different plan in place for 2025. So in 2024 and prior years, the town set the amount that they would pay for employee health insurance. And employees could choose a plan based on that. And for a whole lot of reasons, that was modified. So what we're doing now is employees that are on our health insurance are automatically enrolled in the MVP Bronze 3 high deductible plan, which is the lowest premium plan on the market. And employees pay a portion of the deductible, and then once their share is met, the town pays the difference. So if you look in department budgets, you tend to see health insurance decreases, and that's because in those budgets I budgeted premiums. And then in a different part of the budget, that $95,000 is our risk for the deductible. So the amount that I anticipate we'll spend, plus the select board decided to ease the transition. So there's around $20,000 built in for that. So what I believe we've done on a net basis is darn near held health insurance level by making the change. In a year when your average MVP plan is up 8 to 10% and Blue Cross Blue Shield is over 20. So
Well, that was my
you
point.
can't do that every year,
Right.
but I think it makes sense for everyone to do it. And so it's different because now there's some risk for the town. There's a maximum we could spend depending on how much it's utilized. And the budget based on
Averages?
based on a reasonable average.
So is it similar to HSA type
Yeah.
scenario? The reason I ask is for percentage, because I'm hearing numbers of 8 to 11% additional increase for next year. So I was just curious to know,
For health insurance?
yeah, what impact this might be, and then how that's going to reflect on this potential
So,
increase for next year.
yeah, don't get me started. We could have 6 hours on this. This change has tied us to the plan that has increased the lowest in recent years. But that can change in a year. I mean, I never envisioned that, you know, BCBS plans in the small group market that we're in are up 23%, and that's because they're ordered to raise their rates above standard because their insurance reserves were too low. Does that put them into a death spiral in that market? I mean, if there's a comparable MVP plan, I can't imagine anyone in their right mind staying with BCBS when the same company, a company offers an identical benefit for a whole lot less. Just trying to say that the market is really, really evolving, not in a great way. I'd be pretty happy if premiums were up 10% next year, to be honest. I consider that a win. That's just how bad the market is right now. Every year, you work on the budget in the fall, and then, early mid-October, you get the rate increases, and you breathe a sigh of relief if it's like 6, 8, 10%. I I'd be shocked if that wasn't our near-term future. And in the same way, you made a public comment about, us being at an inflection point for schools. We're at that for the healthcare system too, and just as much money, if not more, is at risk. So yeah, I'd just be shocked if we're not having a conversation, a meaningful conversation about it every year till the day I die.
Well,
Bill Shepard probably had the same, 20 years ago, when I was a young buck, I remember having conversations with people saying, health insurance is increasing 6% a year, it's totally unsustainable. We're having the same conversation. It's still unsustainable.
Somehow we
manage to survive. It just gets a little more complex over time.
well, and the health insurance really is one of the major drivers of the increased education costs. So it's not like education itself is becoming that much more expensive. But you have to pay the teachers, and the teachers need health insurance.
And I think one of our strengths is that we don't have a union, and it's not to disparage unions, but if you sign a union contract, so often you will say in your contract, we are on this health plan for 3 years or 5 years, and we have some flexibility to pivot. It's not easy. There's a toll on there's a toll on taxpayers, there's a toll on employees, but at least we have that flexibility. And I think we keep that by just paying reasonable wages and trying to make sure that insurance remains reasonable.
Good. Tom?
To that point, I guess I'm not trying to bring back Alyssa's comment, but so that's a universal thing for all employees. It's part of total compensation, right? So when we look at what an employee's making, that's an element. In future years, I think that's going to be very important to look at. We're keeping people, right? But also understand that the people paying that property tax are also facing those increases in healthcare. It's not like some magic that's only happening for state employees and teachers, et cetera. So I would just caution that I understand the logic. It all makes good sense. I think Chris's comment about the following years also makes good sense. But there are other elements in here that I think that that bear some understanding of total compensation when you look at a person's pay.
And it's an interesting comment you make, because a theme I've heard from a lot of towns this year is that if they give employees an inflationary wage increase, that the increase in total expenses from health insurance increases exceeds the increase in employee wages. So health insurance isn't as expensive as employees, but now that 10% inflator in health insurance is now just so much. I never quite imagined we'd be in a world where a family plan with a $2,000, $2,500 a month premium still has an out-of-pocket deductible maximum of $14,000, but we are.
Alyssa?
I'd just say I just don't want to minute, like, this was a really big change, and I think with the board has received a lot of feedback on it, and it was a really substantial change that we made. And I'll say, for me, editorially, the 2 points that kind of drove home why I feel like it's good is the hope that we don't need to make this type of change again. Tom has alluded to that we have the ability to. I will say, having been on the board while we've done it once, I hope we don't need to do it again. So I think it's also trying to create a long-term plan towards sustainability, and then also equity across employees in terms of, based on this year's budget, the total out-of-pocket for an individual would be up to $850 for the year. We cover all premiums. That would be the individual exposure for deductible. For a family plan, that would be $1,650. So I do think that's competitive and hopefully fair, but really appreciate that note, again, in line with increases and everything else, that this is an important part of retaining and supporting employees, and we just need to be mindful. So appreciate Tom working on that, and hopefully we can continue that moving forward.
And if I may, there weren't questions, but I just wanted to elaborate on a couple things in the capital plan, the local option tax piece. They're both record dated. This will be a good segue to Katarina. I don't want to keep your hair forever. It is her birthday.
I know.
That's a good way to celebrate.
As we discuss your health insurance, no.
So on the The money, there's a presentation earlier in the year, there's money in the local option tax, $55,000 for the painting of the shallow end of the pool with that sort of high-end Flexicoat surface that we started this year. And that seemed to work really well. Even if it's approved by the voters, if the spring comes and it didn't stand the winter, then obviously we're not going to do it. The second piece is there's $60,000 for rec facility planning and estimating. Had a conversation last week with a big local construction management company about working with us in that. And they said we're better served by an architect, and we're going to meet with an architect next week. But I have, by way of background, I have spoken with several pretty prominent engineering firms that have done projects like this. And, you know, engineers will tell you they're not estimators. They can do that, but they're really not estimators. And they want to substantially engineer a rec building before you can get close to having budget numbers. And to do that is $200,000-300,000 grand. And they're also, you know, they certainly have their share of design, and they do that. The large firms all have a design team, but it's cheaper and better if you bring your own in-house design. So what I want to do is I want to sit with, you know, a consultant team of people that are in this business on the architectural side and on the construction side to say, here is the in-house vision for a rec facility and what it would look like. I don't want to spend $200,000 or $300,000 in engineering. I want to spend some money to understand the cost. Because if the cost is $15 million, then we don't have a project and we can stop right there. If the cost is something that we can reasonably afford, then we can keep going. I just want to find a way to get there, to get to the bottom line first as best I can, understanding there's a lot of variables in the mix. So that's the thought. The $60,000 is not something I've been able to ground truth yet. It's my internal estimate from talking to staff, but I haven't sat with that firm yet and you know, worked out terms to say we think this will be good. So given that, if we don't have time to make a modification upwards or downward, if it's ultimately approved, we'll live with it. And just do what we can within that amount. If it's not approved, then it's not approved, that's fine. But that's a theory, just to figure out, before we get far along, what a reasonable cost would be, just based on some average numbers per square feet and the design worth making.
Okay.
Good segue, Academy.
Tom, maybe if you don't mind, I'd love to have a conversation with you about that.
100%.
It's been my life, and I can help.
Yeah, 100%.
Better use.
Let me just introduce category and recreation by saying one thing. For me, the last few years, and I think as long as I'm here, the recreation budget is the toughest department to estimate, and I think that's the highest risk. Part of it is highest risk in the sense that we're working with kids, and that's always challenging. But also highest risk in the sense that, to some extent, the number of kids you can take in the summer program depends, not to some extent, to a large extent, it depends on the staff you have. And you don't always have those staff until the summer is really close. So how many kids you can take in the summer program, we can't tell you today. We focused a lot, and Katarina's helped a lot in focusing on safety and quality, something I learned, and I thought about how much of this I say publicly, but I'm just going to go ahead and say it. There were some parent complaints that came into the rec department before my time that did not make it to the manager. And they were certainly worthy of the manager's attention. And so we've pivoted the last few years to try to make sure we're operating an effective program, but a safe program, and that's part of the budget. So in short, the budget before you has fewer kids in the summer program, but we can also say to you, we can meet the same net bottom line to taxpayers and have a large number of kids if we can find the staff. So we've sort of right-sized, but we'll go bigger if we can. How's that for the intro?
Yeah, I think that is very accurate. The estimates that are in the budget before you have us serving 75 kids a day, and that is a representation of a right sizing of our program. This past summer, we had an average of 123 campers signed up for camp. In actuality, an average of 93 attended per week. I know that 75 per day is an even reduction from there, and that is just a representation of having experienced staff. We predominantly have high schoolers as our staff, which we absolutely love, and we want to have high schoolers as our staff. We think it's a terrific entry-level position and is great for our community to both helping the high schoolers gain job experience, but also is a great mentorship opportunity for the campers. That being said, we need more experienced supervisor and manager positions for those who are overseeing those high school staff, and we have not had those in my time here at the Recreation Department. You all may remember I started halfway through the summer of 2023, so I got to experience camp as it was planned, with the exception of a flood happening the day I started, so that was a bit of a curveball. That being said, that first summer, I knew right away that there were a lot of changes that needed to be made. We attempted to make them this past summer. We did hire someone who we thought was a more experienced staff member who ended up not being someone that stayed on the entire summer. So we ran our camp with just Katie and I, Katie Mandich, who is our program coordinator in the Recreation Department, along with all high school staff, 2 college students, and 1 person who had just graduated college. We would like to have people with more childcare or education experience in our summer camp. We have not been able to find that. This budget reflects that. If we are able to find it, then by all means, we will expand our numbers and open registration a second time. We are making some other changes in our summer camp, such as relying on instructors, not just having our high school students be the instructors of activities, just so that we're, again, showing, giving our campers more experiences, but also showing our high schoolers some job training opportunities, and that is still fits into all of the budgeting that is in this. And then with feedback from families, we are moving up our registration date. So you all may know that it typically happens around town meeting day. It will actually happen a month earlier in February. Our press release will be coming out. Lisa's here, so you'll get that. Our banners will be up. We'll be spreading the news. We will be contacting all of the families that have attended in the past. And that is a significant change. We understand that, but that was feedback straight from families. That's typically when most camps do have signups. So the families that waited for ours and then didn't make it in, are kind of out of luck for the summer. Apart from that part of the recreation budget, I think almost everything are more or less smaller changes. I know you talked about pay increase. I want to make sure that I commend Katie for her great work this past year. We are a department of only 2 full-time year-round staff. Katie joined last November. I want to make sure that that increase to her salary is reflective of her actual responsibilities. She has been, her title is the program coordinator, which has her in charge of our after-school program and leading or co-leading our summer camp. But really, with just 2 people in a department, you do a lot more than that. So I want to make sure that, she's not only doing those things, she has a lot of other responsibilities. And so her past responsibilities and the expectations for 2025.
And I want to say, there is pickleball court money in the local option tax. It's, the reason I recommend that, it's a really fast-growing sport. We do have the tennis courts also taped for pickleball. I'm actually surprised at how many people play pickleball and tennis there. And the vision for that is actually to site it at the ice center. One, the skate park has abandoned their idea of building a skate park at the ice center, and so it could logically go there. We have had some initial conversations with the floodplain manager, and we're compliant with that. They don't want us building anything where the lower soccer field is, where there's sort of a natural turn of the river, because the river is going to tend to erode that area. It is in the floodplain, but my understanding is it hasn't flooded since I've been here. If it floods, it's not going to get substantial current, so it shouldn't really be an issue. We need to clean it. But that money would actually give us likely 3 to 4 courts. 3 to 4 courts is basically the same physical footprint as tennis courts. They're pretty small, but the reason I think the ice center makes sense is pickleball has it's kind of like a ping that you get from ping pong, just a lot louder. And I do get occasional noise complaints from Anderson Field. So I think having pickleball there in its own standalone court would be, probably we'd have those complaints would increase in frequency. So I think the ice center is the best approach. We also, in theory, could put it at Seminary Field, but again, you've got people living right there. So I think the ice center is the best place, and that estimated budget number would be courts and fencing. We'd also have to have a conversation at some point about lighting. It's not all the money in the world to run the conduit under the parking lot and to light the pickleball court, and I think that would be an element of it, maybe not year one, but that would be an element of it. But it's, my knowledge, I think it's the fastest growing sport in the country. So I think having courts would be a nice win for rec.
Yeah. Okay.
I have a two-part question. The first, I see on the 2 years, 25 and 26 of our local option tax, it's a total of $150,000 for pickleball courts. My big question is, was there a loud demand for pickleball?
So there's a pretty loud demand for tennis. And in terms of pickleball, there was demand to strike the tennis courts for it, and there are conflicts between the two. But then also looking at towns that have the facilities, there's an awful lot of use. So I don't think there's any question the demand is there. It's not loud in the sense that we're not getting phone calls begging for a pickleball court, but I think the demand is there.
My second part of the question was, what comes with the tennis courts? We just leave those as is, and we just have a second court down by the ice?
I think they just remain tennis courts, yeah. Yeah, we've invested in those a little bit. We've cleaned the surface. We've got some new hardware and netting, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And we could have a conversation about whether or not they remain striped as tennis courts and pickleball courts, but I guess I would argue if we have standalone pickleball courts, then probably tennis just as tennis.
On the summer camp program, I know that there's been a scholarship program to allow families with lesser means to participate. Is that still going to be budgeted?
Yes, and actually this past year we had a more clear application process than in past years. We awarded 6 scholarships, some full, some partial. that allowed people to attend the camp for either what they applied for, if it was weekly or the entire summer. We absolutely plan to continue that in the next year, and hopefully many years. That being said, we are also working with Forward to see if we can have a nonprofit arm to hopefully solicit some even more donations to us.
Supervisory folks, I know everything's getting more and more
Yeah.
expensive, and is that why you think you can't get supervisory folks?
That's an interesting point. I don't know if compensation is the leading cause. In talking to other rec programs that run similar summer camps, we are actually about aligned on all of our wages when compared to other summer camps. That doesn't mean we're aligned on our wages for other summer jobs, specifically for educators. I'm not sure of those wages. I don't know how many people are looking for seasonal jobs anymore who are qualified for this, so that, the pool is limited, I think, is the biggest issue.
I've personally tried to recruit a whole bunch of teachers and paraeducators. The answer is, they're done. When summer rolls around,
Yeah.
they'd like to take a break and either take a break or do something different that maybe doesn't involve the same
Children.
Ian, do you have any plans for next summer?
Construction is my go-to, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've seen,
Lower building, pickleball.
Friends of the Waterbury Reservoir, we're having a harder and harder time getting greeters
Yeah.
for the, stations, because not that, kids want to enjoy their summers and stuff like that. If they do want a job, they want something maybe more directly, aligned with whatever their career paths are, and sometimes they don't think a greeter is probably, to me, that's a nice job. Sitting
For the summer?
outside,
Yeah.
outside all summer long, and it's not too bad,
Well,
but.
some of your
Did you
greeters
apply?
are...
What?
Did you apply? I think it'd be great.
I have, believe me, I have said that. The only problem is my reliability, because I'm on and off, being up in camp and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I think it's a great job.
You had a retiree at the Blush Hill
Yep.
launch site. Are retirees, would they qualify for your position?
Sure, if they're willing to work a summer camp with overseeing a lot of kids all day, more than willing to. Yeah, of course. I would say that is in part why we're kind of switching to an instructor model. This would be a couple of hours in the morning, and we would be rotating those instructors each week. That is an effort to hopefully recruit. Maybe those teachers would want to come for a week or two rather than 8 weeks, and it's only a couple of hours a day. For the afternoon, or midday to the afternoon, we would be relying on more of our high school staff to be in for all of those hours, because there just wouldn't be as many activities to instruct. We'd be going to the pool, we have our swim lessons, they would be more in charge of keeping track of the children.
Have you looked to inquire with Fish and Wildlife, would they have the whole hunter education program? And granted, a lot of the hunter education people, they want to train the next generation
Yep.
of folks out in the woods, but there are other people who do that kind of stuff. They just like educating kids, and they might pivot, doing something like one of your programs.
That's a great suggestion. That's exactly what we're looking for this summer, so I'm happy to look into that.
And part of it too is, that it's not easy, it's not a hard thing to observe. If you go down to rec camp on a Friday afternoon, you've got high school kids that are working 50 hours a week or more. They're tired, they're ready to go home.
Oh, yeah.
How about getting lifeguards? Has that been problematic, or is that...
We actually were pretty well staffed this past summer. It was up until the last moment before we had our lifeguard training that we had more or less enough for the summer. why I think that is so successful is that our pool director, Heather Lesser, does work in Harwood, so she can be recruiting high schoolers to be lifeguards for almost the entire school year. She is a huge asset to our summer rec program. So we've been okay with lifeguards.
I believe Katie is now.
It's me.
Katie,
So
on
we're good. Didn't have to do it this summer. We'll see.
And what's the relationship with the Rapids, the racing team?
Yeah, so the Rapids use our pool for swim training 3 days a week and have their swim meet 1 day a week on Thursdays. This past summer, the one thing we changed was that we actually held all of their registrations in our online portal, which had allowed us to, one, collect the money and give it back to the Rapids for what they didn't owe us for rentals, but it also allowed us to collect the appropriate information to be having them safely at our pools. So we had the right contact information and health information in our own system that the Rapids could access. But the Rapids have been great to work with. They work really well with our pool, and we actually had them overlap with some of our public hours, which allowed us to be open for more public hours in the late afternoon, which we do think helped increase some utilization of our pool this past summer. Is that what you were looking for?
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, I know that there's been sort of the argument that we've got this reservoir just up the street and that maybe we don't need a pool.
Yeah.
And the pool is falling apart and blah,
Yes.
blah, blah. But it seems like the Rapids is one reason that we need a
Yeah.
pool.
Yeah.
And I'm just sort of interested to hear how that's working out.
Yeah, I would say it's really hard to learn to swim at the reservoir. You don't necessarily get all of your skills. A pool is really great to learn to swim in, and we have that asset right here in Waterbury. I am partnering with Sugarbush this year to run some winter swim lessons. The interest in swim lessons is more or less through the roof, especially for new parents. I hear from new parents all the time who want swim lessons. Last year we partnered with Bolton.
For
We've
the
partnered, yeah. Well, if you want, adults do.
Maybe for the adults.
Yeah. We do have one of our swim is Star Babies, where the parent and the baby take the lesson together so that the parents are learning some of those skills. Not necessarily swim skills, but watching their kid in the water skills.
The other piece I'd say is, the pool is, in a lot of respects, an apartment for the summer program and the staff. If we didn't have a pool and we took regular trips to the reservoir, it would concern me. The example I'll give is the summer of 2023, we had budgeted and planned for 4 field trips, rented buses, take the kids to state parks. And 3 were canceled because of the weather. And after the 4th one, towards the end of the summer, I thought it was going to be an awesome day. I thought staff would love it. So I talked to staff the next day about the field trip. And I said, how was it? And they said, it's terrifying. We're trying to keep track of 100 kids swimming in muddy water where you can't see them.
Yeah.
So taking a bunch of kids to the reservoir, I learned that day is some of the same elements.
Yeah.
And it was a total mess after the flood in July for quite a while. Mike?
Well, that just brought up something. In the next few years is going to be when they drain the reservoir. There ain't going to
Right,
be,
yeah, they're
there ain't
threatening
gonna
to
be
drop
the day use area. It's going to be the upper flats out there.
We did see increase at our pool this summer when
Right.
the reservoir was closed.
But my question to you, Katerina, I saw it today in the warrants. I think it was the recreation, that there were a whole bunch of things for CPR and AED training, which I think, are all staff trained in CPR and AED?
Yes, all of our staff, both at the pool and at our summer camp, are first aid, AED, and one other certified.
But that's near and dear to my heart.
Yeah. And we are looking into, both Katie and I, also getting trained to be teachers to reduce some of those costs in future years.
Great, appreciate it.
All right, other questions about the rec budget? Ian?
Just quickly, one, I'm very interested in that instructor model.
Okay, all right, Ian. You're on my list.
But you did mention, I believe it was this past summer, that there was someone that did not stay on.
Yep.
Was that, I don't know, I'm just wondering if that, the reason why they didn't stay on would inform this conversation? Was it a budgetary issue, or?
It was not a budgetary issue. I think that I'm not supposed to talk about personnel issues.
Right on.
Other questions? Alyssa?
I'm going to totally change gears and say, I don't want you to answer for Tom $60,000 for recreation facility planning and estimating, but as our recreation director, I'm curious kind of like what an ideal scenario would be for you, just in terms of like how you as a department weigh in or express needs. I'm personally struggling with kind of like the chicken egg of like whose input from where at what time is right, and budgets being limited versus practical, and just would love to hear your perspective on going about a process like that.
Yeah, I'll first start by saying our biggest constraint, specifically with our summer program, is that we're at 3 different sites and the pool. When I mentioned the employee concerns with not having enough supervisors or managers or people with those skills, having fewer people with those skills overseeing essentially 4 sites is extremely challenging. Essentially, Katie and I are just driving back and forth the whole summer and not truly able to give a lot of attention to any site, which is part of why Tom very nicely wrote about the safety concerns for our summer program. So having one location next to our pool would be a huge win for the programs we're already running in the rec department. To answer your other question about how do we decide about where we go, how we do it, I will also add that the rec committee, which is the advisory committee to the recreation department, has been talking about this for the last 9 months, both getting input from themselves, their own history with recreation. We had a table at the farmers market, and in the last few meetings, we've been inviting members from organizations both in town. We had a sort of nonprofit meeting at our last one, and then this week on Thursday, we have more of the for-profit or not necessarily sports-related coming to the meeting to weigh in. What we have heard in most part is that the sports-related organizations would really love to have a rec building. They see a lot of ways that can use it, and kind of, well, maybe not surprising to me, but it's also come up in the meetings that the non-sports related organizations are looking for bigger spaces to hold their events, meetings, get-togethers, what have you, because the Steel Room is booked a lot of the time, especially in evenings. So having a space for other organizations, more like a community center, not necessarily just a rec center, would be really beneficial. How we go about that, or we've been, the quest of the Recreation Committee is sort of having laid out what we want in that building in the coming months, so that can help inform the conversation of how we're, well, you know, Tom or I are talking with these other entities to move something forward. I have no idea what that will cost, but I do know that the Recreation Committee, nor me can come up with a design plan for a rec building, and you almost need that to begin applying for grants, and I know that we'll need additional funding outside of Waterbury to fund the building if we do move forward.
And I'm happy to share my vision when I think if you want.
I was going subject matter expertise first. You're the globalist.
But I can give you it if you want.
Yeah, go for it. I just wanted to give Katarina, she's here on her birthday. Thank you. I figured hard questions.
What I think about is there are rec facilities that have these sort of multi-purpose floors. They feel soft when you walk on them. You can bounce a basketball, you can play indoor soccer, play all sorts of sports in there. What I think is, so I think that is a flooring. I think, you know, steel frame, steel sided building. It's an open space. When I think about space, you know, pretty standard, you know, basketball court for middle schoolers, for example, is in the range of 80 by 50. So imagine two of those next to each other with a movable curtain or wall. So you've got, 8,000, 9,000 square feet of open space that can be subdivided easily. Cat Arena would need a classroom space on top of that for the after-school program. You're 750,000 square feet for that. You need bathrooms. You probably need the basics of a locker room. You probably don't need extensive showers, but you need certainly a shower in each bathroom. You need some lockers and storage. So, you're pretty quickly in the range of a 12 to 13,000 square foot building. But you're also a building that is very simply designed. And I think the heating and cooling is fairly simple because there's not ductwork. There's essentially a system for the overall building. So the question is, what is that per square foot to build is what we're trying to get at. What's the final vision for square footage? What is a reasonable number per square foot to think about? And then I always like to work backwards, and I tell people, for every $1 million you borrow for 20 years, a good number to keep in your head, depending on interest rates, is 80 grand. Probably a little less, but think about 80. So if you borrow $10 million, you pay 800 grand a year in debt. I think $10 million is way too much. But if you have a local option tax that grows at 3 to 4% a year and some of it's unencumbered, can you borrow 3, 4, 5 million without impacting property tax rates? Maybe you can, because you've also got a few years to prepare for it, and you've also got then time to seek grants. I tend to think, from looking at other towns that have these larger facilities, they're mildly profitable or they break even on operations because they're coveted facilities. And I think the Capital Soccer would be salivating over indoor space. They can have events all winter. I think there'd be an awful lot of demand by sports teams. I think our high school, middle school would have demand for it. I think we'd have town meeting day there. But it's a matter of right sizing the facility, and maybe my numbers are way off, and it's a matter of keeping it really dirt simple so it's affordable. The prior vision had a school, a childcare facility attached. It had a commercial kitchen attached, and I think we know those things are not feasible. So I think keeping it dirt simple and right sizing it is what you have to take the approach from the start.
Totally, and that study was $50,000 7 years ago. I mean, it was at RW at the time, so I think I just appreciate hearing, one, the community engagement. I'll say as someone who's elected by the community and wants to represent the community, we hired you for the practical down to the details of what the flooring is, but the global picture of that this is a community asset and how it impacts our programming is certainly something, as a representative, I want to make sure we're hearing from the community and from the boards and committees that we encourage to advise us. So appreciate the input.
I will never once say that you can make money in a facility like this. I will say that the goal would be that you can pay the operational costs, but the debt's the debt.
Chris?
Yeah, it seems though we walked this path here just a number of years ago with a feasibility study for a community center / recreation center. I don't know how that particular design would meet the needs of what you're proposing or what you're thinking. The price tag then was just a little over 14 million, almost 15 million. That was before construction costs went topsy-turvy.
We started with the feasibility study as we began looking at this again in the Recreation Committee, knowing that that is a great jumping off point, and there was a lot of community discussion about it. But when I went back to the consulting firm for that, I think the document said that it was going to be $12 million. When you adjusted that for 2024 dollars, it was going to be $17 or $18 million. And that we're not in a position where we can spend $18 million on a building. So with that in mind, we went back to the Recreation Committee to take the input from the community at that point, but also with the realization that we can't have that size of a building right now.
Yeah, a number of years ago, I spoke to Bill Minter about putting together a local group of contractors to do something from that perspective on a either volunteer basis or in they never got back to me, so it kind of just went off in the wind. And
Well, if you'd like to talk
today's
again,
world-
sure.
in today's world, I'm not so sure that capability's still there, because,
Yeah.
we're a growing minority.
Yeah.
As time goes on, guys that are getting into it are far and few, and the guys that are getting out of it are many, so.
Understand.
But it's, I'd still be willing to sit down and
All right.
chat, maybe come up with some
Okay.
ideas.
Bill?
I think that all that's good information, and I think the challenge, and I'm supportive of doing something, I think that Katarina and Tom laid out some good thoughts and ideas, and, the safety of the program, and being able to have one facility, but the challenge is going to be the other stakeholders in the community. This is recreation that you're talking about, and we tried to do this before, and then, everybody comes in and adds another light bulb to the Christmas tree. And we need a kitchen, we need this. So I'm not saying that you shouldn't move forward with this thought process, but just understand that the community is a dynamic place, and there are other people that are going to have other ideas as well. And so, having said that, just a question, Tom, on the local option taxes. I know we're several months into having it, and whether we receive money or not, and what the projections are. But I'm curious as to how much you're thinking in the near term it's going to generate, and what percentage of it are you and the board thinking they're going to be for new projects and new infrastructure versus helping us just pay for what we already have?
So we've received our first, so just for everyone's edification, when the quarter ends, vendors have to pay, the state processes it, so you get it 5 or 6 weeks after the quarter ends. So we didn't budget for it this year, knowing that the bill hadn't passed or been signed into law. And at the time, the tax department was telling me when the bill was signed into law, they looked forward 2 quarters to implement it. And what happened is, the legislature took up the bill very, very quickly, and it made it through both houses and was signed into law before the end of March. And I want to make sure I give some credit to Jason Gibbs, who's the chief of staff, Waterbury resident, who helped with that, as well as Tom and Teresa and others. Around that same time, the tax department called me and said, oh, we can do this in 1 quarter now. So suddenly we had half a year's local option tax that was unbudgeted. So we received our first payment in mid-November, and that was $230,000, almost to the penny. Higher than what I thought, and I was obviously conservative in the projections. Historically speaking, the third and fourth quarter each tend to be about 29% of the total. So you project out that $230,000, and it's annualized in the range of 800-ish. So a pretty healthy number. So even being conservative for the fourth quarter, if it's 200, pretty good healthy amount of money that was unplanned for this year. Now the Selectboard did allocate $160,000 to pay down debt, which has been done, and the Selectboard allocated $70,000 for the Gutto Road paving, which has been done. And then there's $100,000 allocated for the Housing Trust Fund. So there's $330,000 allocated, but you still end the year with a pretty substantial surplus in it. And in the same way, when you read your audit, you've got a highway capital fund, you'll have a local option tax fund, so that running total will be there. So the 2025 budget as presented called for the use of $732,500 local option taxes. So I think a reasonable amount, given how healthy the payments have been, and given that there's a running balance to start the year. And that can also get modified. Obviously, we're at the early stages, and I know there's already been some conversation about the skate park and perhaps changing how that's funded, if it's funded at all. So, essentially, the budget calls for utilizing something like 90% of the expected total. And then of that 730, about 230 is for the highway and public works vehicles. So about a third of it is to purchase vehicles that would otherwise likely be debt financed. And then the rest is an amalgamation. 150 is the gravel roads, which is the other biggest single chunk. So I feel like, more than half is very traditional nuts and bolts, fire and public works, infrastructure and equipment. And then, the rest of it is the recreation study, the housing trust fund, things like the card access system. And then I also just want to note that, the housing trust fund is in its infancy. We haven't spent any money, but I did every year put something for the local option tax into that fund. But that's obviously I don't even want to call it an educated guess. I put something because I knew it was a board priority, but how much is spent on that and how much is raised from other donors and how much is received via grants is all limited at this point. But I thought it was important to establish a regular transfer from the local option tax to the housing trust fund.
Thank you.
Okay, other questions on?
You're behind, so I don't want to take less time. But,
Oh, okay, Tom?
So you mentioned the word partnering. My understanding of recreation is it's not bounded by town lines, right? So have we reached out to look at this, again, infancy, but fund requirements, right, not desirements. If we want a recreation study that's going to cost $60K, we understand what we're asking for, and have we maybe looked at a regional approach with recreation when it comes to this facility?
It's on the list. We have reached out to the school and have had conversations there.
Okay. Thank you.
I would just, as Tom mentioned the skate park, I want to make clear that in that local option tax, at least in some conversations, part of that was going towards basketball resurfacing at Hope Davy as well. I want to make sure that that is still in the conversations. That is part of sort of the skate park package. You may remember that the skate park has, in their proposal for the one they're building, has swapped places with the basketball court. So the basketball court would be adjacent to the firehouse and then the skate park. Because that's happening, the basketball court needs to be resurfaced. So I want to make sure that is in your minds, maybe at the top of your minds, but that's in your minds as you talk about those things.
Does that not fall into the skate park's purview if they're the ones moving?
So their funding request, I believe, their funding gap was 60, as I recall.
It's either 50 or 60.
And that did not
I thought it was
include
50.
the basketball. So we put more in to essentially pay for it all.
And that was because when they came with various proposals, they kept, and in conversation we said this too, stick to the skate park. The rest should be, through something else, the town or some kind of partnership.
And on the skate park, they seemed amenable to scaling it down a bit to save some costs.
I have heard that as well. I don't know what the current plan is.
Okay. And I talked to Mike Rossi on Saturday night, but, it was just a casual conversation, so I don't know if they have any further plans, but I guess we'll have to bring them back in to try to firm this up.
So Roger, is there still to propose or keeping the existing skate park and then building another? Or at one point,
No,
they were gonna eliminate the one in the center. And
Right.
do the one in
Let's eliminate it.
It is.
The ice center one is,
The
no.
Ice Center one has been discontinued,
Oh, it has.
Right,
is my understanding.
it's just going to be up at Hope
So,
Davy.
yeah, the one at Hope Davy has already been removed, as far as I know.
Yes.
Yeah.
I will say that in all of their conversations, they have said that the ice center is no longer their priority. I don't know if they have actually, or I have not heard them say it is completely off the table, but it is not in any, in the next 5 years, it is not sort of on their horizon.
They
And we can't get this one built, so I'm not sure they're going to build
Yeah.
one that's twice as large over at the ice center.
Yep. I'll also say,
Recording in progress.
because I'm in the room, the rec committee, or rec department, along with the Historical Society, is also in charge of the art in the space. This is currently a Maker Spirit art exhibit about the 2023 floods, a community effort. In January, we have a Waterbury artist that's going to be on display, and the rest of the year are all Vermont, relatively local artists are going to be in here too, in addition to a Waterbury Historical Society exhibit. So there's also something the Recreation Department takes on, and we take up on a lot of, I should say I take on a lot of strange projects. This is one of them, and it's very enjoyable.
Which plate is yours?
You know what, I didn't make a plate, but I did hang them all, so I feel very connected to the project.
Cool. Nicely done. Thank you.
Thanks for coming in on your birthday.
And thank you for celebrating, this was really fun, yeah.
Should we do one round? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Katerina. Happy birthday to you.
All right, with that, I will blush to my car. Thank you.
We wanted the recording
Yeah.
just for that.
William Waterbury.
All right. Anything more on ARPA funding? I know you've a memo in here, Tom, about the funding that was not fully needed for the bridge constructions. And
Rare good news in the capital project, the budget.
That's crazy.
So the ARPA funding has to be committed by the end of 2024. It was fully committed, but since the bridge funding is under, there's $32,022.40 that now is free. There was some conversation about allocating some of that towards the skate park. Has to be allocated by the end of this year, has to be spent by the end of 2026. My suggestion, and you can make this motion, is to allocate it towards the Recreation Capital Fund, the full $32,022.40, and we can allocate it towards the skate park, for the recreation pool repairs, and there's also a $20,000 item for lawnmowers in the budget. And if the skate park does not come to fruition for whatever reason, it's easy to spend it on those other items.
I would like to rewind for
Go ahead.
just a quick second. Did you say 20,000 for a lawnmower?
Yep, commercial lawnmowers.
Yeah.
there's a zero.
Yeah, I was like, look, did we tack on an extra zero by mistake?
We're actually thinking that we are going to pivot and just try buying high-end home models and more of them. And understanding that the zero turns haven't served us all that well. They get a lot of hours, but they're high maintenance too. And then what you expect out of a commercial mower is not quite what we've got. So we're probably trending towards another commercial mower. We're thinking about buying perhaps a couple of the higher-end residential, 16-inch deck, 25 horse mowers, and seeing how the hours are.
Dixie choppers.
But yeah, they're gotten quite expensive.
All right. Anyone interested in making a motion about this $32,022.40?
One more question.
Sure.
If we allocate it to rec, it can be reallocated through rec to other departments?
So it's got to be allocated by the end of this year.
Right.
So I think if we run into 2025, reallocating it is not really possible. That being said, this is really an accounting exercise and money is fungible. So if there was a different recreation capital item, and if the money is in the funds and we on paper apply the money towards the mowers and to the pool, there's other monies freed up elsewhere. So it's
Yeah. It's just 32,000 that needs to get parked by the end of the year.
So I would suggest a simple motion would be to allocate it towards the lawnmowers, which would be an easy capital purchase, and then the balance towards the pool repairs. There's still then those funds in the recreation capital fund that were not there before. So if there's a need for the skate park, that fund will have a positive fund balance.
I make a motion to approve $32,240.
So $22.40.
Okay. Of ARPA funds to be expensed by 12/31/24, to be used for purchase of a mower and pool expenses, and to be deposited in the recreation fund.
And just for the auditors, next meeting, I can bring you the specific lines just to show that. So-
Okay.
Roger, can I ask
Yeah.
a question?
We need a second and then get to it. Okay,
Well,
Sandy.
that's kind of what I was trying to get the question in before he did it, but, so I don't know if I can, but I thought you could use ARPA funds for employee expenses.
Yeah, you
So
certainly can do that.
why, I mean, if we've got some payroll salaries, why aren't we using it towards that, to reduce that expense to the town? I
You
mean,
can
that
do that
seems
too.
more logical.
I guess what I'm trying to achieve here, I might have mentioned this in a past meeting, is that I don't want to tell too long a story, but a couple weeks ago, I met with Tom Stevens, and Tom told me a story about the legislature, where there were just certain conversations that resurfaced, and he said, we had a skate, when he was on, I think, the village board, that every so often, the skate park conversation would resurface, and if you look at our meeting minutes, you know, as long as they go back online 10, 15 years, there's constant skate park conversations. And what I think the board should do, whether or not they make the skate park get on the warning and petition themselves, or whether they pay for it through ARPA or local option taxes, but I think it'd be nice to just put the conversation to bed. And if the select board says, get on the warning, and they're on the warning and it passes, great, and if they're on the warning and it fails, well, then they know they've got to raise funds for the difference. The voters have spoken. But I think it'd just be nice to somehow compartmentalize this and put this behind us, one way or the other. So that was part of the reason I suggested doing this. But yeah, you can make a motion to very simply reimburse the town for payroll or fringe expenses, or gravel, or essentially any operational expense. And we have done that with some of the ARPA funds. So you're entirely correct.
Yeah, and we did allocate a significant portion of the ARPA funds to exactly that purpose already. But at the same time, we do have recreation expenses, and we have a motion on the floor. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Was
All
it
right.
your second?
It was my second.
Thank you.
All right, that motion carries. Let's move forward. Approve the Have Your Say Day schedule. What did we propose last meeting? Saturday and then the following Monday, Saturday the 11th.
So Karen sent us a lovely email titled Important Town Meeting Deadlines.
Right.
So my chief concern was just making sure that the proposed date, and noting that let's see, January 27th is the deadline for candidate petitions. February 2nd is the deadline to warn town meeting. We could do it anytime between 1:23 and 2:02. So the thought being we needed both the date for the input and then the subsequent opportunities for the board to revise the budget all prior to February 2nd was my personal concern. Making so that we can warn it based on any proposed changes.
And those were, the 11th and the 13th were January, correct, not February?
Yeah.
January.
Anyone see any reason not to do it on Saturday, the 11th, and then the following Monday?
Recording in progress.
Seeing as I have already requested both days off.
You're good?
I'd like to stay static on these dates.
You like continuity? Well, then we're going to have to change it. Anyone have any reason to change it from those dates? I don't know if we need a motion to make it official, but we can.
You should set the time and make sure to set the location of the motion. I'm assuming
What is the time?
Yeah, I think the fire department will be large enough, and I think we're talking about 10 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
That was on Saturday. and then
Yeah,
Wednesday.
Saturday, the 11th at 10 a.m. at the fire department, assuming Chief Dillon says it's available.
How long are we expecting the meeting to run?
2 hours.
I'm sorry, Roger, what's this for?
This is to present the budget in its entirety. We're reviewing it this month so that it's ready to be presented to the public, to go through it more or less line by line so that everyone can get in their ideas like we are right now.
Instead of town meeting?
Well, see, the problem with town meeting is it's an up or down vote. You really can't discuss it. You vote for it or you vote against it. This is an opportunity to go through and say, I think we need more money for the pool, or we need more money for the employees, or wherever you think that Thomas and the board have like misjudged the allocation of the funds, or maybe you want to raise taxes, Chris. But those would be the opportunities to actually make those substantive recommended changes, and then the select board will come back, take those recommendations, make needed adjustments, and then warn the budget.
So Chris, something I'll say is there was a League of Cities and Towns event a few months ago, and they had a panel about creative ways to present information to the public. And Maureen Hartley, the Duxbury clerk, was one of the presenters, and she talked about voting and how they fall in love with this vote in that cause. But she talked about Have Your Say Day, and they no longer, their town meeting day is now Australian ballot. And what she said is, in general, I'm trying to paraphrase, I'm not speaking for her, but my impression was she said that the same people in general that showed up to town meeting day show up to their Have Your Say Day. But she said she thought there was more and better conversation because it's not formal. You don't need to, make a motion using 1800s language. You can just say, what's going on here? And she thought there was just a lot more talk about it. So she thought it was an improvement from that perspective. Just not advocating for it or against it, just giving me that feedback that she said.
So does it kind of take the wind out of town meeting day, in a sense? To some degree?
Well, I think in transparency, this was kind of a trial option of a different format. I think, you've been at all the same town meetings I've been at. We've asked the folks at town meeting, and I think gotten feedback that those folks enjoy the meeting and feel like it's important to maintain. And we've got feedback from folks that aren't there saying, I wasn't able to weigh in and I wish I could vote on this by Australian ballot. So I think this was a way of saying, let's try something different. We can't change town meeting without a vote at in-person town meeting on the first Tuesday. So to be clear, whatever we warn will be for traditional Tuesday, 9 AM town meeting in March. But I think we said, well, let's try the system to maybe give folks a feel for it. Are we still going to get a turnout? Could we do it earlier? Does it feel like it's getting that same engagement and conversation? And that way, at town meeting, again, if we wanted to revisit that conversation as part of what we warned for town meeting this year, we will have had this opportunity, so to try it.
Well, being on a different day, you may get some different people, right? Yeah.
Right, and that's the other thing is that, you know, not many people get that Tuesday off.
Good idea, yeah. It's worth a try.
Skip,
Duxbury also offers a free pie for breakfast.
we're about to get to pies. Yeah,
Get some there.
it's on the sub-agenda.
Bring the pies.
Yeah, if you were bring
You
by.
better get the
Were you able to find those blueberries in the freezer over at St. Leo's? From the blueberries that were left in the freezer at St. Leo's from the,
I haven't.
they're probably still there. You put those in a nice little pie dish, jiffy crust.
They're
Perfect.
still there.
All right, we'll have to go get them.
All right, we do need a motion for this?
Yeah.
Should I refer to it as Have Your Say Day in the motion?
I think that's the accepted name.
Okay,
That's what we're calling.
all right. I move to solidify the Have Your Say Day schedule, starting with Saturday, January 11th at 10 a.m. at the fire station, Main Street. And Monday, January 13th, standard time, 7 p.m., question mark? Okay. That's the motion.
All right. Anyone have a second?
Second.
All right, moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Yeah.
I did not say a locale for the 13th. Would it be the steel room?
I think so. I think that we'll probably, my guess is that we'll have enough.
And I would like to amend my own motion to
Okay.
add steel room to the 13th locale.
Any objections to the amendment? No. Okay. All right, further discussion on this one? Yeah, Tom?
Question. I would say that before you make a decision after this one, I mean, I'm all on board with this, I think it's a great idea, but garner what feedback you get on that Saturday, what feedback you get on that Monday, because it could decide if you've got the advertisement out properly, right? Between now and then, you're gonna have to tell people, we're a month out, right? So,
Right.
and it just happens to be a new year. So again, I would just say, see how many people show up. Great opportunity, but it's all going to be about getting people in seats.
Well, we got Lisa right there.
It is, absolutely. Every other hour. Looking for more.
Yeah, we'll put it all out there. Yeah.
No pressure. Yes, Lisa?
Is the 13th meant to be a continuation of the conversation on the 11th? I think that's what.
Yeah, well, it's basically to accommodate, not everyone can come on a Saturday at 10 o'clock in the morning. So we're trying to accommodate as many people as we can. So either you come on the Saturday or you come on the Monday, and we can address any issue at either of those meetings.
Will the 13th also be a regular select board meeting as well, or is it just part 2 of the Have Your Say?
Good question. I have to check. But it will be a select board meeting. I don't know whether it'll be a special one or a regular one.
It is a special.
It'll be a special one, so it will be a special one.
Okay.
Every meeting's special, isn't it?
Yes.
Only when Skip-
It's because of the special people involved. But the official ones are the first and third Mondays, which this coming January will be the 6th and the 20th.
Okay.
And the 20th will be a Martin Luther King holiday, but so far the board has indicated that we want to,
Hold off on that for just a minute.
okay, so far the board has held its tongue on that.
Must be important.
I guess
I think
so.
it might be Gary Dillon, because there's nothing more awkward than booking something for a space that's not available.
They have training that day.
Training on Saturday night?
if we're doing pies, just to
No, it's
say.
Saturday day, right? 10 a.m.
Oh, that's right, Saturday day. Yeah.
I mean, you proposed Rotary as an example. We can talk about the softer details while we wait. I feel strongly you should offer childcare. I don't know if there's a place to do that
There's a
there.
wrinkle.
Yeah, I was just gonna say.
Okay.
Look,
Annual banquet for the fire department, January 11th.
Ah,
They set up the night before.
glad we checked.
So, great chat.
okay. How about the new rec facility?
Or the school.
It's all ready to go.
Can we ask, but we have to get a use form approved for this school.
Okay,
I don't-
so school,
It's on the
Takes time.
calendar on the
So we have to,
St. Louis.
then you get
St.
it?
Leo's.
St. Louis.
We have,
I don't, I mean, I guess it's the only space. I don't feel phenomenal about having a town meeting in a Catholic church. I'm just gonna say it. It's not my first preference. I know we use it for a ton of things, and if it's the only available option, it's okay. It's just,
settle for Methodist or Unitarian?
We have no Unitarian, we got Methodists.
Right. I'm just trying to think of where else.
is the school gym not an option? Because we're worried about it.
I'm looking, yeah.
The
I mean, I submit,
Brookside gym?
I literally submit use forms for a living, for work. Like, we have all our
They're very fussy
community
about use
buildings.
of the school.
Well, it
Yeah, it's
also,
on Saturday.
there's a demand for it.
You know what?
It's not like there's going to be kids there.
Yeah, I don't think it's the kids' situation, but
There could be
they,
basketball happening.
Yeah, the basketball.
The building is booked for a lot of things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to.
I mean, if we have to do
Okay.
St. Leo's, that's fine. It just wouldn't.
there. How about the Green Mountain Club facility?
Is it ADA? Well, they just did an upgrade, I think.
Great call.
Sun Common has a decent conference area.
All right, so maybe next
That's
meeting, we
accessible.
figure we do a little reconnoitering and come up with the location. Save the times and just make sure and change the location.
So we have, yeah,
Yeah,
a
January.
motion, a second, discussion, and we either need to kill the motion or download it.
The school has,
Just do a friendly amendment, just.
Yeah, youth basketball.
Location to be determined.
Yeah, we can just amend it to say location
Yeah,
to be determined at our
basketball,
next
8
meeting.
to 12.
I guess.
That way it gets it on the
The
poll.
new rec building looks pretty good, Tom.
I think Crosser Brook has Duxbury.
Had Gary, was Gary listening?
no.
Could we do a Waterbury town meeting in Duxbury? I mean,
They'll think we're really becoming them, not just in our format.
He's doing it in Burlington.
We can do, if someone wants to reach out about St. Leo's, it seems like that may be.
How about the ice center?
Free.
all right.
Be chilly.
Do we get skates?
So how about amending your motion one more time and we'll move forward?
To reflect that a location still needs to be decided for the Saturday, 1/11 at 10 a.m. That can be decided at our next select board meeting.
Maybe reach out to the Grange there in Waterbury Center.
That's not a bad idea.
Or the
Yeah.
Legion.
Roger, the Legion?
The Legion, yeah.
The Legion.
The Legion will hold 100 people, easy. Yeah, I can reach out to Tammy at the Legion.
And they're used to holding a pie for breakfast for.
Yeah, they know about pie breakfast.
Pie routine.
So the motion
They may
amendment.
bring more people.
All right.
Cash bar.
Okay, so motion, the amended motion
Waterbury's, never mind.
is on the floor. That we're going to add a location to be determined for the Saturday. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right. So we will just try to decide this next week and. Oh, Monica? Okay. But Sandy was saying, and I think it's true, that there's not tremendous increase in space at the Grange over this room.
Yeah, the drainage is pretty small.
Yeah. Whereas the Legion, you can pack 120 in there.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah. So, okay, we'll try the Legion. They may want some money, but they're,
Oh, I'm sure.
Well, at that point,
We do donate to that.
I'll see what Tammy has to say. Okay, let's move forward. Text my gov.
So I think plans probably changed today or yesterday with the river forecast. So we purchased this text my gov system, which is an easy way for us to send mass text to the public, and we also can receive them, and people can text their issue to us, and we can set up these predetermined catchwords so it knows what they're sending. I initially wrote a memo saying I wanted to do a big rollout of this on January 6th, and there would be I do like a Facebook and a front porch forum post. Then there would be a text that went to the thousands of people in their database, and at that point, you get the text as a user, and you can opt in from future text or opt out. I talked to Text My Gov today, and that's ready to go for tomorrow, if the board is interested, but I didn't want to just have half of Waterbury get a text message without the board being notified first. But I thought, given the potential for flooding on overnight Wednesday to Thursday, let's go ahead and just throw it out there.
Alyssa.
What's the plan for monitoring? So you can send, only you right now, as of now, have the authority to send out alerts via this system?
I've got 8 or 10 people set up who can log in and send texts, and then it's set up so that if texts come in from a specific keyword, they can get routed to that person that we determine.
Okay, that was my question in terms of, I will say candidly, in flood response, like, let's be real, the perpetual cycle is I called 211, I thought someone was coming, no one was coming, and so I just that's my only reservation in terms of just making sure that if folks respond, but it sounds like you all can log in and check that.
There will certainly be some growing pains with any new system, but
Right.
yeah, we can log in and check. So there's an Excel spreadsheet you can export from it too to make sure you respond to everything.
Yeah, it seems like a great opportunity to test the system with real information. Not just a test, but reality. We are sending you a beneficiary notice that we've got a problem coming down from the skies and downriver.
Again.
Again, yes.
So who gets the texts?
The texts go into a database, and then depending on how we set it up, when they come into the system,
I mean, the outgoing texts. Am I going to get a text on my phone?
if you're in their system, if not, there will be a Facebook and a front porch forum post that tells you how to enroll if you want to. But if you get a text and you don't want it, you can very simply in the moment opt out from all future texts.
So will this be similar to like the alerts that we get from the state? Just it's going to be more local?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it's not going to be like the weather event on your phone where it's like tornado warning or something like that, right, where we all get them, but you signed up.
Yeah. But those are things that we'll probably receive, I'm sure, on this.
Yeah, there's other functionalities in that.
Right, there are other things that we, you may want to get out information.
Ian?
Just wondering what outreach we've done thus far and what outreach will be done in the coming days to roll this out.
So I've worked with some staff internally and some other folks who have seen it. In the coming days, I was going to just put it out there by any means we can, and then the text itself is the biggest outreach. And if someone views it as an unknown answer, it's real easy to just type no and then you're done.
So opt out.
91896, that's it, right?
The phone number?
Yep.
That signs you up. So you can sign up now. On your own, you can get the mass text. You can report problems to us now. So yeah, just text that 91896. that's all you do.
You didn't sign up when he said he did.
Oh, I certainly did.
Yeah.
We should
Well,
take
Alyssa.
code issues out because we don't have local code and I don't want to be an authority on it.
That's fine.
I think the other ones are good examples, but.
All right, do we want a motion on this one?
I don't think I need a motion, I just want to keep the briefing.
Okay.
Very nice. We're always happy. We can do this for as long for the next couple days.
Yeah, why roll it out, in time of fashion, we can do it in an emergency.
All right, any other questions or discussion on Text My Gov? All right, sounds like we have a plan. Parking at the Methodist Church.
Okay, thanks for waiting.
Yeah,
Let me begin by saying Karen put out a front porch forum message, I believe yesterday, that 51 South Main was closed in 2 days.
right.
Just as soon as that message went out, I got notified by Downstreet that there's a little delay in the closing.
Ah,
And so I'll post something on Facebook and front porch forum, probably late tonight or tomorrow, but the closing is not likely January 9th. So that lot will be open through the new year. But that being said, I think we've all heard about parking concerns, so there was an agenda item last week. I've since talked to Woody and Skip about using the Wesley Church, and I think the rough sketch of what we can turn into an MOU is like a long-term contract, like a 10-year agreement. Seems fair. We would pave the lot, although we don't have to do it. We'll do it the next 2 years, maybe not next year, and stripe it. And then I think in the short term, put a handicap space in right at the logical place there. The church would have the right to close the lot to the public if there's a special event on their end. And then we also think that not allowing overnight parking makes sense. So Skip was thinking, I believe, noon to 6 a.m. But you're also open to leaving it for public parking during Sundays.
Yeah, there's, the public uses it anyway.
do they?
Yeah, there's a few people, come down Foundry Street, want to skip over to the sports store, pull in there, and I think some people from Maker Spear park there occasionally, not a whole lot, but 3 or 4. Yeah, we didn't want to have overnight parking. I know 51 had, I was looking at it over the weekend, had like 5 cars that were there
Yeah,
from,
and sometimes some trailers as
in
well.
a trailer there and things, so no overnight parking, and, up to 10 years is not a problem, and paving whenever, it's convenient. We did include upgrading the storm drains where the water from the town storm drain backs up and floods the church lot all these years. It was put in probably 30 years ago by a private contractor and things, and if we start paving over it and, more cars there, it ought to, look at the structure of it, and it's kind of tilted anyway, so it ought to be, straightened up and things, so.
But the flooding of it, is that, that's just a question of it being at a lower level than some of the other storm drains, and so.
Yeah, it's one of the
It becomes
lowest.
the outflow rather than the inflow, is that
Yeah.
the issue?
It is the lowest in our system.
When the water gets over the end of the drain back of Tom Drake's.
Yep.
and it
It starts going the wrong
comes back
direction.
up, and that's one of the lower drains on the system there. So it pops out of there, and the one in front of Perkins Garage there are the 2 low ones on the
system.
there, so. I hope you can still go skiing down back the rest of the week.
I'm not holding my breath on that one.
But yeah, we're okay with, under those, conditions to,
But then the other piece is that if it's essentially a public parking lot under contract, we would extend our insurance to
yeah.
cover that lot.
And we can use it this winter if we plow it?
Yeah, you would, plow and sand it and stuff. That was the benefit to the church, was we don't have to pay Marty to plow the lot and things. And Woody talked about lights, but I think there's a street light right on the corner there with the drive over by that Steele used to use there. It's not particularly dark. We have some motion lights on the back of the church anyway, there that would operate if somebody there. I think Woody measured it. He thought there could be 10 spaces, 10 or 12 maybe.
So a lot less than 51 South Main, but I feel like I rarely see more than a half dozen used there consistently.
Albert sort of uses it as a place to station vehicles.
Yeah, but aside from those,
He also uses the sidewalk. Related but not related question, Tom. Does that mean that their ceremonial groundbreaking here is also being moved back to the 9th?
yes, they don't have their certificate of environmental approval from the state, so I'm sure they're not going to break ground until that happens.
Okay then.
So you can handle this one of two ways. You can make a motion authorizing for me to enter an agreement with the church substantially consistent with what was discussed, or I can bring back a full agreement, no objection to either way. It won't take long to get a full agreement in place here, I think, a week or two.
Anyone have any? Yeah, Ian.
Just wondering if we move ahead with this, is there a way we plan to inform the public that this is now public parking?
Yeah, we can certainly do, front porch forum on Facebook. I'm not sure. I want to think about the text like us system a little bit, and do we want to use it for that sort of outreach?
Yeah.
Well, there's also the big public parking sign that could be used, and the birds. The bird has already been brought down. Those things that RW paid for, the metal bird sculptures. They're supposed to mark where there's public parking. I didn't know that.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, see, now people are learning stuff. Yeah.
I think, people that need it were a good outreach.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
For sake of peace of mind and maybe to respect the First Amendment, I'd like to see an agreement before we enter into an MOU with a church, regardless of denomination. Would be where I would stand on that. I'd like to see the agreement before I agree to it.
Okay.
Okay.
So we are just directing Tom to develop a MOU that'll be brought back to us for approval.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mike.
And just since we have Lisa here, if she could put something, because I know I've been getting a bunch of calls about 51 Main Street, because people are concerned about during the holiday season, not having parking available downtown for Christmas shopping and such, that is, because it already went out, it's created a little bit of a fervor. So saying that's not going to happen until, after the New Year's.
I had a message into Nicolette about that as well, so
Yep.
I will get something out there soon.
So it was by popular demand.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
The responsive select board is leaving it open until the 9th.
Yes. The select board heard everyone's comment.
Still owns it, so.
Well, maybe then give some credit to EFUD too, Glenn.
Well, that's reminiscent of a few years ago. The EFUD commissioners didn't want to do anything to save it for parking when Main Street construction went on, so. You know, that's why we didn't do anything to have it for parking when Main Street was all torn up and stuff, so.
Why did you stand in the way of that?
Pardon?
Just curious as to why you didn't want parking there during Main Street.
No, we didn't do anything with the lot,
Oh, I
so
see.
it would
So you
be
could do-
available for parking when Main Street was torn up.
Right, yeah.
But it turns out, I think the contractor used it more than the public at times.
That's all right. Main Street got done.
And I will say the outcome of that is the lights are so bright. I've driven home with my headlights off by accident before, but I also think it legitimately encourages folks to park farther. I will say, as someone who drives up and down Main Street quite a lot, I think we've discussed the handicap spots, and there's a legitimate need for those to be really close, obviously. But for those who are able to walk a little farther, I do think the lighting that came vis-a-vis Main Street has helped encourage folks to go down towards the park, and that's okay. You'll still get back to your restaurant or shopping location.
It's actually healthier. Okay. You've got your directive. We're all set?
Yep, we'll work with Tom, and when it's ready, come back to you, so.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yep.
All right, next on the agenda is concerns about the flood and then the natural disaster response coordinator.
I can give just a quick flood update.
Yeah, let's get the latest flood update.
Public Works feels good about culverts. All those issues have been checked pretty well. Unanticipated to be an event like last summer, it was really Waterbury Center got hammered. Kane went out today and made 30 or so sandbags, spent an hour or two doing that. We hope to have some, unless the forecast changes, some volunteers tomorrow, and to the extent needed, I'll commandeer some town staff to get sandbags, but we've got sandbags and they'll be ready to go in a trailer, and we can just bring the trailer around and pile sandbags.
Team Rubicon reached out to me, they gave me a call about an hour before this meeting, asking where to direct volunteers to fill sandbags and what time. I just said I would check back in with them after this meeting.
The idea would be we'll have 2 trailers with sandbags, so we'll park one down Randall and Elm and park one down in the Route 2 area. And if people want sandbags, they can take sandbags. And if the trailer gets wet, that's okay.
And I also heard that there are going to be sandbags available at the Restore. So people down in the South Main Street area can access
We've got
sandbags there.
700-800 empty sandbags, so if people want to.
Okay. And the filling is going to take place up at Waterbury Center at the sand pile? Okay, so that's, we'll need volunteers to do that. That's a fair bit of work.
Yeah, it is.
So you're trying to recognize who
From 2 to
credit where it's
4:30.
due. Yeah.
So Tom or Kate,
Yeah.
what's the info for if people want to help volunteer to do that? What do we tell them? Or do you want to write something and send it to me and I'll?
I can write something to send to you, but I think Diane tomorrow is a great suggestion.
Here at the town garage?
I think at the garage.
Okay.
We want to volunteer for sandbags.
Okay. And Roger, do you mean at the Restore they've got empty bags to be filled? Or they've got the bags with sand in them?
I was told at the RW meeting before this one that there was, that Restore is planning to have sandbags available at Restore. But it would probably be worth placing a call there in the morning to find out exactly what the deal is. Yeah, Ian.
Just sandbags available at Randall, Elm, Restore, and what was the third location?
Route 2 near Farfield.
Route 2 West.
And it'll be a trailer, right?
Yeah, that's the plan.
Yep. Okay. How about messaging about the risk of basements getting flooded in certain low-lying areas and advising people to move their stuff out in advance of that?
So with Mike Dacey, who's the head of crew, he was putting out a message today. We put out a message today. At this point, we're at 419 for the official forecast, so we're at the caution stage. I don't know the full details about how often that forecast updated, but I can tell you it was 24 hours, basically 11 a.m. Monday, 11 a.m. today it updated. So I recall in past floods, once you get closer to the event, it updates more often. But to some extent, our preparation doesn't die by that forecast. And the forecast they've given more detail. So if you scroll to the bottom of the NOAA page, they now give some probabilities of higher events, and the probability of a flood in the range of 422 is very low according to their forecast. That being said, they've been 3 to 4 feet.
They've been wrong before.
3 times.
We've seen that. Okay.
Right before the meeting, they basically sounded optimistic. Maybe not as much in Center Rutland and North Bennington. A little more concerned.
I think no matter how severe it'll be short-lived, it's going to get cold quickly after the rain.
That will stop.
Would it be prudent to have a call-in meeting or something like that tomorrow evening, or?
Yeah, we're going to know a lot. I think with an updated forecast and rain totals, I think we'll know a lot.
Yeah, and so we could.
Expected to peak tomorrow night into Thursday morning.
Yeah, 1 a.m. Thursday morning, we're expected to see the peak.
Right.
So maybe a meeting before we all go to bed.
Yeah, or earlier. Yeah. Maybe.
Run to bed. Call in our James.
Yeah, and then I'll be here Wednesday night to Thursday. The road crew will do their normal routine. The challenge for the road crew is if they're needed in the downtown, it might be impossible or really hard to pull them because things are going to freeze up in the center at the same time. We're going to have pretty icy.
When are temperatures supposed to drop?
Almost immediate. Friday.
Thursday? Because I heard the sun was coming out on Thursday.
The sun comes out tomorrow.
But they might have some other fish to fry. I can likely pull some of the EFUD crew if needed for things that are pumping out.
Do you want to try to set a time for tomorrow night for just updates and contingency planning? 7 o'clock? Sound
Here?
right? Yeah, either here or you can call in if you can't be here.
Thursday morning, we hit freezing at 4:30 a.m.
Okay.
So we're expecting high water at 1, and then we freeze by 4.
Yeah, but that water doesn't freeze immediately.
Other places will.
Yeah. Okay, so we can check the availability of the room. Otherwise, meet here tomorrow night at 7.
Yes, I can just check the room availability.
Yeah.
So the 11th, EFUD ends at 7, so
Perfect.
that's it.
Yeah, Lisa.
Governor has a press conference at noon tomorrow. FYI.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, Ian.
Are we going to send out sandbag locations on the text line letter?
I believe I can.
That might be good information for.
I would do that on social media too.
Yeah.
Yeah, on your system,
I would do that too.
on social media.
Yes.
Oh,
I'll
and you
post it.
also,
I'll
okay.
post it, I will post it and share it.
All right.
Some people will get freaked out by a new system coming through. Is it a fraud or what? Hate to say it, it's true.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, if we advertise it enough, I feel like
No, because it's kind of coming right out of the blue. That's why I think people will be a little skeptical.
And then if, supposing everything goes to hell, and we have the usual December flood, we've got pumps available, and we've got some volunteers and town people, and I guess we can address further volunteer activity. I can be available to some extent on Thursday. I can be here all day on Friday.
I've got my schedule cleared all for the weekend, so
Okay.
I'm going to bring my airbag and sleeping bag and double changes of clothes.
All right. Sounds like deer camp.
We should just have an emergency room for Fairfield Inn.
Any further discussion on the flood preparedness? All right, then we can move on to the natural disaster response coordinator position.
Yes, so this position does not exist, so I don't have the authority to fill it because of that. But I wrote up a job description. I did do that to the Natural Disaster Committee. They met last night. I did not attend that. John Walter sent me an email today, and they appear to support the position.
Yes. Their concerns were, and I intended to put the concerns to bed, was that having someone in a part-time position where they are activated during a natural disaster,
Bless you.
to them it sounded like it would be a hard job to fill, but once I described potentially someone filling this role would be someone already in the municipal mechanism, if they would put their worries to bed about that issue.
And something, I've talked about with the committee and had a couple internal meetings with people on the committee and crew is that, the desire is for someone, like what Liz Schlegel did, which was you have the flexibility in life to drop everything and live here coordinating it for a week. And it's great that she did that, but writing a job description for a unicorn is not going to yield an animal that doesn't exist.
Unless her name is Liz.
So I tried to write it similar to the fire chief, where the chief isn't expected to respond to every call, but his job is to make sure the apparatus and the personnel are there. One of the biggest jobs of the fire chief is to make sure you have an adequate number of firefighters and you've got your trucks and everything else. So I don't envision it as a full-time paid position. I envision it as someone who wrangles the volunteers and coordinates it all. And yes, obviously is going to put in some effort in the event of an emergency, but in the event that person is in Florida for their child's wedding, it's still going to work. And I think we can do that with a stipend, because I think there's an awful lot of people that people in this room work for a stipend, and there's an awful lot of volunteer committee members that work for a pancake breakfast. So I think we can probably find a volunteer to lead this, and if we can't, then there'll be plan B.
What kind of stipend were you looking at? Or haven't thought about it?
I tend to think in the range of a select board stipend.
It feels as though maybe the responsibilities are a little bit more than that, because these meetings are such fun, for one. But then it's also putting together a volunteer corps that's going to be, responsive and trained, so.
And I guess just to be clear and to expand on it, my thinking is if we're wildly successful this is a stipend position with a payment in the event you're called into action. So
Okay, yeah.
hourly, and then from talking to crew and from talking to the Natural Disaster Committee, everyone seems to agree that the best model is for some form of team or neighborhood leaders under this position. And I envision something similar where those people would get some form of appreciation if they're called into action. I'm not sure those would be formal town positions. But we can cross that bridge, I think, once we get there.
They're essentially lieutenants.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you want authorization to start recruiting for this position?
To create the position.
Create the position. All right.
It's a hard thing, it's like, we've all seen how with the animal control officer, we haven't been very successful.
Oh, we're very successful. More success than we've ever had, actually.
But you know where I'm going is, that was probably a lot more compensation than this position's gonna
I've got,
be.
I've got a handful of very civic-minded people, and I'm going to reach out to and hopefully twist their arms.
Well, hopefully not too hard, then you can look out basements.
Yeah. All right.
I move to authorize the town manager to officially create the position of Natural Disaster Response Coordinator with the role as described.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion?
I searched my email and, sorry, Ian, I interrupted.
It's late, so I'll just say,
Mhm.
when you
Go.
define a position and you define, in town, I know you're doing all that already, so the unity of command is one of the tenets in the military, right? So if an incident happens, where does that person fall? Because all you, and Bill just left, but you got crew, you've got other these, and then you've got the people, right, the populace. You know, you mentioned Gary Dillon, everybody knows Gary Dillon. Everybody's gonna go to Gary Dillon. This person is going to have to be like a Gary Dillon. And then he's going to have to, he said, everybody should understand that the points of contact, and to your point about lieutenants, right? Because you can go to a lieutenant, and that's what they probably should do, but the decision on resourcing, when you have limited resources, has to go through one building. Just a
Yeah, I think that's why Tom is sort of building this on the fire department model, because there is a chain of command.
Chris, how much different is this position? It is different than like the emergency management director. You know, it has similarities, but it is different.
Yeah,
you know.
it is different. And you know, the role of the emergency management director during the flood essentially ends when the water
Yeah,
retreats.
to save lives, right?
Right,
And so beyond that, this is where the position is going to take that leadership role.
right. This would be kind of taking on after the initial emergency happens.
And then there's a role for crew beyond that for the long term.
Right.
And Mr. Gore, you know, the position envisions someone with, you know, leadership capabilities.
Yeah, we may have the guy right here.
I mean, I sent you the one text, I've got family limitation, that it just wouldn't be right. That's why I moved back to Vermont, having parents, so. Just, again, I would be all over it, and I'd be willing to be the guy that helps out where I can, but to be that unity of command, that person, that's a key spot. I mean, again, you only need them when you need them, right? And then when it happens, like you guys did a lot of discussion right now about something that may happen. Be nice to have that one person. But if it happens, I'll be that person for the next 72 hours. If that would.
We heard it here first.
They got you, they got you.
Lieutenant Colonel Gore comes back
The
to save Waterbury.
itself has to have more compassion than I have too, right? I mean, you've got to be limited resources, hard decisions, face to the customer, right? In this case, the populace, and not everybody's going to be happy. Nobody's going to come to you with a, hey, you know, this is a very good community, a lot of volunteers, and you mentioned Rubicon, right? First I've heard the name, it's a really cool name, but I'm sure there's a lot of people on that team right now.
Yeah, they cross rivers.
What's that?
I said, yeah, they cross rivers.
Yeah. Oh, you're talking about River Rescues? Was that?
No, I mean, they're named because the Caesar crossed the.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
The Rubicon, Caesar, you can't go back.
Yeah, I wasn't going that far. Thank you, enjoy, you guys do a great job.
See you.
Take care.
Good night, yeah.
See you within the next 72 hours. Okay.
Or hopefully not. My email archive was that we got a letter on October 8th about how crew supports this position and the grant manager position. So just to say, per our earlier discussion. And the committee, right, which we had reiterated tonight, but I'm saying it was a joint letter from both, so I think it's great. And then I haven't double-checked the line items, Tom, but have we budgeted this? Okay, that was me for next year.
Also, something we considered definitely there to be a much part of this job description is that the neighborhood lieutenants should probably be from that neighborhood or live in that neighborhood.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, the position is created and approved.
That's neat. That's a cool thing to just.
All right, and as soon as I find my agenda, move on to the next item.
Do you have a
Yep. Next meeting agenda.
Well, first I would clarify, next meeting is tomorrow at 7, pending availability.
Right.
And then this one.
Yeah, so next meeting is emergency meeting on the 11th of December at 7 PM in this room, pending availability. And then the following meeting will be on Monday, well, the next planned meeting will be Monday the 16th. I will not be here, so our vice chair will be chairing.
Just a heads up, the handbook still will not be prepared.
Oh, really?
Nope, not till January.
Because
personal lives, jobs. The holidays, jobs. Two of them are working on the edits now instead of just one, which is a great development. We're hoping to get it before our first meeting in January, which is the timeline I asked them to stay on. And we're hoping that they can meet it.
I did get that feedback on the handbook.
Yeah, so, there's two of them now who are going to be working on editing as far as the feedback is concerned. The feedback from crew wasn't huge. It was just a few like rewording suggestions. So it shouldn't take terribly long. But I don't think they'll have it for the 16th.
Okay. We can strike that. That'll make things a little shorter. We do have the MOU on the Methodist Church parking. Is that going to be ready by next Monday, or you want that later than that?
Let's put it on there for now. We have to, we'll get that smoothed. But I like being aggressive and giving myself some work. If there's a flood.
Yeah. What else are you going to do sitting around here?
Do we have any more budget discussions that we need to have for next meeting?
So that's up to you. Prior to my time, the budget conversations didn't really start until January.
Right.
And you sort of work towards a tax rate. I tried to upend that, so we can bring department heads in and have as much time as you want, or not. It's your budget.
Do you want to talk to the highway crew?
Yes, that's what I was going to suggest.
Yeah.
I would like to speak to the highway.
Bring in Celia and Woody.
What do we just want to have in general, public works in general discussion? Not just
Okay.
highway.
Yeah.
And I know I've said this to people privately, and I've said this to Celia, but I've worked with a bunch of highway departments over the years, and the detail Celia gives me is better than I've ever had in my life. She's just fantastic at pulling all this together.
Really?
Just want to make sure that's acknowledged publicly.
That's good to know.
Sure. So the highway department also helped me greatly with gathering all the materials that would need to bag sand today, which is something that I'm very grateful for, because seldom do I have an opportunity to bag sand. I do not have the necessary equipment.
Okay, other things on the draft agenda include the ACO fee structure.
And I believe that was a Karen request. I believe there's a change occurring at the state level with the fees, because some of the licensing fees are town and some get remitted to the state, and I think that fee is changing.
Mm-hmm.
So the way the ordinance was written is that to update the fee, you can update the fee structure, but you don't need to re-adopt an ordinance, which means we don't need to re-advertise it, go through that whole process.
When we get money from like a dog license, some of that goes to the state?
I don't know how much goes to the state, but I think a lion's share of it goes to the state.
Huh. I don't understand why. That makes no sense.
All right.
I won't go any further.
Rental registry postcard.
Oh, yes, we had quite a discussion about this.
Well, this is just to set the agenda for next meeting, not to have the discussion now. But we put it back on there?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Skate park, coalition funding. I guess we invited them to come back. This is the opportunity for them to come back and downsize or right-size their design, and we can talk about money.
And I guess the question is, I mean, we allocated ARPA tonight. Like, are we telling them, I mean, I'm just saying we moved that ARPA money to rec. We have 42.5 drafted in the budget. You know, are we telling them we're comfortable with this, what do you want, or are we just asking them for a right-sized?
Yeah, I think we do need to tell them what we're willing to spend, and tell them that otherwise they're going to have to, if they're looking for public funding, that they're going to have to make an appeal to the town and get on the agenda for a town meeting, right?
Very viable option.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, we can just invite them back. Like when we had talked about, we said we'll decide tonight and invite them back, and we decided some things, but not that specifically.
Yeah, I don't want to invite them back, just make them feel like we're kind of.
Yeah, that was a little awkward last time, because I wasn't quite sure what they were proposing, and I wasn't quite sure what we were prepared to respond with, so it's nicer to have it.
Why would have this on if they have a defined plan, what they're looking at doing, whether they want to do? It didn't seem to be.
So,
Because do we want them to go for a special article? You know, I don't think that was totally fleshed out.
Yeah.
We can present what we're willing to give them and say, you need to make up the rest. This is your
Yeah.
next steps. I think they would appreciate that.
and as per Karen's email, the deadline to petition is the 16th of January, so you're giving them a month to get signatures,
Right.
and that's the requirement, which I think is fine, but I think waiting much beyond that makes.
No, they're going to need a month to get theirs. Because they need, what is it, like 300 signatures?
I don't know that number.
It's something like that.
Yeah, it's close to.
Yeah, it's not like an elected official. It's like
It's a percentage of the checklist.
It's a percentage of the checklist.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly what that is. So how about the money for skate park? I mean, I was thinking 20,000 from the ARPA budget. The motion was a little bit different tonight, but I guess the question is to Tom, is there 20,000 in the budget, or can we put 20,000 in the budget?
So there's
Figure out them all.
There's the ARPA motion made earlier today. And that was, as I recall, that was the 32,000.
Yeah, it was 30.
In that capital fund
Right,
for mowers and then skate park.
right.
So the mowers will be about 20. The local option tax budget for 2025, I had in again, as a placeholder, I had 2 years to pay for it over 2 years, but they could do the construction in year one. But that, I had in there $85,000 split over 2 years, which would pay for the skate park in full, plus the reworking of the basketball courts.
Okay.
So if there's an intent to make them go get some funding, that can change.
Yeah, Ian.
So, thinking 32 was in our ARPA funding, and we're giving 20 of that to a mower, so that comes 12 will come out of that.
12 can come out of that balance, yeah.
But you've already got everything that they asked for under the proposed LOT funding
For 25, right?
Yeah.
for 25, yeah. So they may not need the 12.
Oh, right, yeah, if we're going by this.
We go by what we have for the LT.
Right.
Yeah, I don't necessarily,
And the ARPA funding can be revisited too. We've gotten to the end of the year, so there's a couple more meetings if there's some balls in the air.
Okay. Yeah, trying to get these balls down on the ground, actually. But the, King,
I was just remarking on that he's right. At the end of the day, for 2 straight years, we've got 42.5 paying for this skate park. And hearing their arguments every time they've been before us, them chasing the money down themselves and fundraising and doing all the things, like, we're providing public land for them to build a skate park on. And they have these ideas to build what looks like a great skate park. I haven't skateboarded since I was a teenager, but
should get back to them.
yeah, maybe I was so late. But providing $85,000 of public funding to the skate, it just seems, to me, that seems unreasonable. Especially when there's 10 other things coming out of local option tax that could easily could have especially gravel roads, right? We could split that among the rest of these line items to the benefit of all these other line items. It just feels unreasonable to hand over $85,000 to the skate park.
But we also have 75K for pickleball. If we're going into, I'm just saying, like, we've got a lot in rec resources. We didn't have this conversation tonight. I guess the question is, do we want to discuss LOT? It was on our agenda. We spent an hour and a half on budget, so I'm not saying we should have spent more time on it tonight, but we didn't do the 2025 line-by-line LOT tonight. We just didn't get there.
Yeah.
And so it's a question around, do we... we can invite them, we can ask them for a reduced ask, we can say we're going to revisit LOT and we want an updated number from you in terms of, I think that's okay, we just have to leave them with some clarity after the meeting.
I have a suggestion between now and the next meeting, that and I can make it easy and just put in a Excel sheet for just 2025, but what if I emailed out for the 2025 LOT list? And in the column next to the estimated cost, you can rank them. And then you can say, definitely don't support, or like to see more of this. And then I can amalgamate that before the next meeting to get some sentiments about how, and again, no pride of authorship here, but if people think the skate park is a low priority and they want to see that money saved or put in gravel roads, that's the way to, since we're approaching 10 o'clock.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that sounds reasonable.
That's reasonable.
And I'd like to get to sort of like a base level that we'd be willing to offer the skate park. See if they could, like, scale there, they've already raised a certain amount of money. I think, $20,000, $30,000 seems like a more reasonable figure.
20,000 seems absolutely more reasonable.
Okay. And then I also feel like we do want to maintain a basketball court up in the center. And their construction will take our current basketball court out. And so I'd like, and that can't be all that terribly expensive, but I want to make sure that the town can replace that basketball court with 2025 money.
I think they've run out of momentum of trying to raise more money.
Well, they're out there, they have a solicitation letter out.
I know.
But
I just don't know, I get the feeling from what they say is that they may be tapped out in terms of what, and then they're gonna try,
All
but.
right, well, let's give them the fighting chance, and we can invite them into the meeting on the 16th and say, we got 20, you can use that to leverage more money.
And I'm kind of with you, it was like, that's kind of the number I was thinking of too.
Okay. All right. Any further discussion of next week's agenda? The Route 2 Neighborhood Safety Group, we have a list. People were brought in for this meeting. I'm not going to be here, so I don't, I was going to suggest that we could invite them to submit impact letters and see what Michelle Donnelly, our state's attorney, can do with those in order to put further pressure on the few individuals in the Route 2 neighborhood that are causing the problem that people are addressing. And just see to what extent that addresses the issue and can advance a solution. But I was at the meeting. I've got some more background than maybe the rest of you do on that. We could bounce that to a meeting potentially on the 23rd. I don't know. We haven't talked about the 23rd and whether we want to have a meeting then. What do you think? 23rd? It's getting close to a certain holiday, I realize. But I'm happy to have a meeting then, particularly if it sort of can close out the budget discussion. Does the 23rd work for everyone?
I'll be remote, but I can be here.
Okay.
We're not going anywhere for the holidays.
Neither am I.
Okay. I'll be here.
We'll be here.
24th, so.
Yeah, we won't kick it to the 24th. All right, let's plan on the 23rd, and maybe I'll also move that
We'll bring in some goodies.
Route 2 neighborhood to the 23rd. All right.
For skate park, I'm sorry, or just for
Merry
this?
Christmas, we got you.
The skate park will stay for the 16th.
Okay, great, thank you, that's what I thought.
Route 2 neighborhood will move to the 23rd. All right. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn this meeting of the Waterbury Select Board.
Second.
Moving seconded, all in favor say aye. Aye. We are adjourned.